Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. It's Matt, and I'm coming to you today from the lush rural landscapes of Southwest Indiana, adorned by a gorgeous soft evening light. As you might imagine from last week, I've got a lot of pent-up creative energy that I want to express through a few photo subjects that I have in mind. But before I set out with the camera, I'll address a couple of the most common concerns that were expressed over last week's video. Perhaps least importantly, I was able to replace my station wagon with this really nice SUV. It's much older than it looks, which I think is a good sign that it's been well maintained, and I think it's going to provide me a much more reliable service for my photographic ambitions in the coming months and years, hopefully. So before you guys get too worried about me, I did have a plan to replace the station wagon with the savings from some labor work that I've been doing in the background. So that savings did allow me to go out and make the down payment on this thing, but it was also enabled by a generous outpouring of contributions to my patronage accounts from you guys. So I won't risk your embarrassment by listing all the patrons who contributed to that effort. You've all received a message expressing my gratitude personally, but what I didn't say is that your contributions actually allowed me to secure this SUV a week earlier than my original savings plan. So this entire week's video is made possible by you. And I'm really looking forward to getting out and making it, and I hope you enjoy it. So while I am proud to say that my photography exercise is financially self-sustaining in the sense that the income that I bring in from the sale of my prints covers the cost of making the prints, as well as my photography gear, which is not cheap, and the cost of getting out and doing the photography. But it does not necessarily prepare me for emergencies like the car trouble that I experienced last month. So if you are a patron who appreciates the work that I do, the value that it provides to our community, which does tend to be a lower income and lower disposable income community, and you're in a situation to give more, and you would enjoy to support me and keep this enterprise going for those who enjoy it, I do have a patronage site at buymeacoffee.com/MattRamsey, where you can make a one-time or an ongoing contribution to my efforts. And of course, simple gestures like liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and following me on social media are free ways that you can help put my content in front of eyeballs of other patrons who may be in that same situation. Okay, as the second and probably most important concern from last video, I did also manage to clean my garage. Okay, it would be a sin to waste any more of this great evening light. Let's get out and make some photos. So the theme of this week's video is tiny landscapes of the American Midwest. And so I'm intentionally filming this segment at a wider aspect than I would normally film an on-location video, so that I can intentionally show you how wide and expansive this landscape is in comparison to the tiny compositions that I'm framing up. So I'll try to host my composition in the video here in this segment of the screen so you can get an idea of the tiny vignette that I'm pinpointing. However, I don't think that the term vignette or detail is exactly appropriate for this type of shot that I'm doing today. I really feel like these small scenes encapsulate everything that's required to make a landscape photograph, but it's only focused on a very small area of the landscape, maybe 100 or 200 square feet in area. You can probably see, however, that I'm using a fairly long telephoto lens. This is the 100 to 400 millimeter lens, and I only bring that up so that you don't feel that this is a prohibition for you to get into this type of photography. A telephoto lens is great for this kind of work and for this kind of scene. I think that a great substitute is the kit telephoto zoom lens. So the Canon 70 to 300 millimeter zoom lens, for example, is a great option. It would be perfectly sharp enough for a scene like this. And another thing I like about that lens is it's also compatible with full frame cameras, so you can grow with the lens and add it to a full frame camera complement that you may work towards down the road. Nikon's also got a really good competitor that's also image stabilized, so that's nice. And in Sony E-mount, you can get a lot of Sony and third-party options. So I think a telephoto lens is great for working in the Midwest landscape because it's full of all these interesting little detail shots. So a development that I've undergone in what I might call a learning journey of photography that I've noticed is common between myself and a lot of other landscape photographers is that I started out working at really wide focal lengths that sort of capture everything that you see in a scene. And I've developed towards working towards more specialized, closer focal lengths that capture maybe small details that might catch my eye, little things that I can have confidence that when I'm out working are original to my own thought process and my own expression process. And so I think that's one of the major attractions towards making this type of development in your photography, is that you can have confidence when you're out making photographs, making tighter, more intimate photographs, that you're capturing something that's original and something that you're not likely to see expressed through the work of some other photographer. Imitated perhaps, but not duplicated. This scene's really nice. It's just a really simple a few fence posts, right, that gives you a strong sense of the rural placement of this scene. Some nice early spring grasses in the foreground and a nice simple sky in the background. Unfortunately, I'm losing my sky, but you know, the sky can also become overwhelming or distracting in these types of images, where it's really nice to brew the elements of the photographs down to the simplest elements. I'll go ahead and take the shot now. This is at f8 at ISO 100, all the way out at 400 millimeters for 1/8 of a second to push everything to the far right side of the histogram. A nice bright exposure that'll give me lots to play with when I'm working on it later on the computer. We'll get that 1/8 of 1 second exposure right after this 2-second timer delay, which is a great helpful tip when you're working for longer exposures with longer focal lengths. Okay, this foreboding sky is threatening to take our light away. I think I've got time to get to at least one more scene before the end of this day. Let's hit the road and make at least one more photo. Okay, same thing for this adorable little slice of Midwest America framed up here on my camera. So this photo, we can feature more of the foreground. In fact, I'm still here at 400 millimeters, but the subject is much more distant, so I'm able to feature more of the sky and more of the foreground. So it's nice that I'm able to feature more in this photo because there's more to feature. There's a beautiful shape to the pasture here, a nice leading line that's made by this fence. So I've put the subject matter of the composition off more to the right to sort of let your eye lead in from that bottom left corner of the screen following this fence post. And like with the previous photo, that fence penetrates the horizon line, as well as these nice two upright power lines. Two power lines that are working with the composition, so I will rarely not take the step of photoshopping them out. Because of the slope of the landscape, you might perceive the photograph otherwise as being off level, but these power posts are backing me up by remaining perfectly upright in the composition to let you know that this is actually the shape of the landscape. Okay, this one I've got a brighter exposure and we're getting a slightly more color in the sky, which is nice. But I can see from the light levels that this is going to be the last photo of the day. I'll go ahead and grab it before I run out of light. I've let the histogram tell me that I'm safe for a 1/4 of 1 second exposure at f8 ISO 100. Looks lovely on the screen. I'm looking forward to bringing out the purple of that henbit that's out in the field as well. It's a nice little decoration that we get here in the Midwest in the springtime. All this countryside will turn purple over the coming weeks, and I look forward to sharing some of that with you in a future video. But I think that we'll have to wrap this one up for today. Until I see you next time, you guys keep an eye out and a foot forward. Thank you so much for watching.